Hello. A new MvM update is on the horizon, and while we may just get a bunch of bootcamp missions and call it a day, the chances of us getting an actual new tour still look promising. And given how Valve handles things nowadays, this might not be a one-time only situation. So either way, you'll find yourself amid a bunch of new maps and missions to play, and the question will inevitably present itself: what do I play? New players will usually default to the class they consider the best, while more casual players will jump on the opportunity of not having a two cities high tour breathing down their necks to play meme classes instead, since you can't go off meta when there is no meta. So the inevitable full stacks of gas pyros and the variable combination of spies, demo knights and huntsman snipers will appear, but you want to play and win, and not spend 2 hours retrying the same mission that shouldn't take longer than 20 minutes, but not knowing the map layouts, which robots will spawn, or even how much money you will have on each wave. How do you choose? Well, here I am to help with that. Disclaimer: there are many variables here, but the overall structure of the game itself shouldn't change, so there will still be optimal team setups you can run effectively regardless of map, mission and credit pool. So do keep in mind, the following advice is being given considering that players will have different skill and experience in the game mode, and that you're playing on an entirely new map you never played before with teammates on the same boat as you, so this is, in my opinion, the best team comp for when you don't know shit and can't have others carry you on knowledge alone. So what is this ideal team comp? Engineer, scout, heavy, soldier, medic and sniper, and here is how you should play each of them and why. But before that, second disclaimer: this is a quick-esque video to give you a bare knowledge of what to play when starting a fresh new tour. I won't delve too much into basic MvM information like not shooting uber meds or why knockback is bad, and I too won't go too in depth into each class. I would still recommend you watch more MvM-centric creators like the Will and Wheezy after this, and to also read Steam guides if possible. Also, sorry for the text-to-speech voice. I know it can get monotonous when listening for a long time, but my voice is not in the best shape right now, so I need to rely on this for a while. Each class will be marked on the timeline so you can look at them specifically, so don't feel the need to watch this all in one go. With all being said, let us begin. Starting with Engineer, he's the closest to a mandatory class in pretty much every tour out there, and that will definitely not change here. MvM is all about throwing insanely powerful shit at you, and you need to be able to fend it off regardless, so the support that buildings give you is paramount to victory. To play him effectively, put the tellies in a secluded area of the map, close enough to the front lines so your DPS classes can join in immediately, but still far enough so your support classes can position safely. Put the sentry parallel to your team, so it can share on the aggro received, reducing the damage both sides take. Chances are the map will have more than one spawn area where robots drop. Make sure the sentry is close to all of them so you can reposition when needed. And finally, the dispenser goes right where your team is, behind cover, so it remains safe, but as close to your DPS classes and the front line in general as you possibly can. For loadouts, prioritize the Rescue Ranger, Wrangler, and either the Jag or Stock. Widowmaker and Short Circuit are good and have their uses, but they work better if you know their wave layouts and if you have enough skill, so for a first try, avoid them. And never, ever, equip the Gunslinger unless you are queuing with a team. You will be kicked otherwise. For upgrades, max out dispenser range right away. The least amount of credits you can start with are 400, so you can buy all 3 ticks and still purchase building canteens. After that, focus on upgrading building health and metal capacity. Which goes first is up to you in the moment, then wrench swing speed, and then 1 tick of sentry firing speed. As of the making of this video, the remaining ticks are bugged, and thus not worth it. After you get all of that, prioritize movement speed and jump height, or resistances if you keep getting hurt for no reason. Between all of those, however, make sure you always get as many building canteens as you can at the start of a wave. A new team on a new map and tour will often be pushed back, and you want to minimize that as much as you can. Mini sentry should never be bought, unless is one of the last waves and you are swimming with money. 500 is too much price to pay early on, and the disposable sentry has less health and DPS than a mini sentry, while still costing as much as a normal level 1. So never get it. Two-way teleporter is situational. If the map is big, then you should consider getting it as early as you can spare the cost. However, if the map is small so that commuting isn't much an issue, or, as most modern maps do, it has a second upgrade stand near the front lines, then you can go the entire mission without buying it. since crit canteen spam will likely not be widespread used, and you should only consider it for a wave filled with giant scouts, but if you are hurting for cash, buy it retroactively if your team fails. For some extra tips, avoid turtling. This is common among newer players. If you have any experience, you likely know not to, but just to cover our bases here, your buildings are for your team, so make sure they are the first ones to get them. Also, a common misconception is that the NG himself is basically an idler once the buildings are set, and you can just sit around doing nothing as long as a building is not in danger. That is false. The front lines are always changing. If your team is being pushed back, or just by the nature of modern maps spreading the robots around and changing where they drop, where the enemy is, and where your team's has to be, will often change, so you need to keep the buildings up with them. If the robot spawn changes to the right side, but you keep the sentry, and especially the dispenser, on the left, your team might as well be playing without an engineer, so don't make it harder for them. Scouts' importance is for money collection. You want to ensure you get most of the credits dropped in a wave, and you don't want everyone constantly going out of position for it, so you need one class to do it, and Scout is the best one due to his high mobility and money-related perks on top of his support capabilities. For loadout, stock or soda popper, depending on how open the map is for the latter and how bad your aim is for the former, Mad Milk and Fano War. Scout's damage is subpar for big groups, only really being decent against giants, of which he won't spend too long fighting because of money, so he takes a more supportive role. Any other weapon kinda doesn't work half as well because they remove that aspect of him. And I don't care how good you claim damage Scout is, for a new map with a clueless team, support is always the way to go. So milk any giant or large group of enemies you find, and hit the giants with your fan to mark them for death, maximize movement speed and jump height right away. Normally experienced scouts then go to work on their primary, but given we don't know the map and mission, I recommend sticking with a defensive build on your first runs. Upgrade your Mad Milk and resistances as you see needed. You might want to run stock for more reliable shots if you want the damage more. The slow upgrade on Milk is not the must-buy as you may think. Tiny bots barely live long enough to go long distances, and giants are actually unaffected by it, not that they move that fast anyways as well. Only giant scouts are not immune, and the only target you want to slow down, so only buy it if there are too many of them and you don't trust your team to block M. For tips, if you got no extra health, always start a wave away from the fight. Most scouts like to run in right away to collect money, but you are at the most vulnerable at the start of a wave, so let the enemies die first before collecting the money and getting overhealed. Similarly, you don't need to collect money right away, it will stay on the ground for around 30 seconds before burning, so you can afford to focus on a giant or tank for a bit before collecting, but make sure to always be out. Collecting money is your number one priority, so never hard focus, or overextend against a robot, and never stay too far from the front line unless you need to prevent a last-minute capture. You also don't need to scour the whole map, only where the enemies drop and where they tend to die. If your team has it together, the area will be small, but if you're getting pushed back, then it would do you good to explore a bit the areas where the robots move. Buy an Uber canteen if needed. Heavy is here because he has a large hitbox, health, and the highest sustained DPS in the entire game. Your role is to fight giants, blocking their path and mowing them down, while still being able to dish out some decent damage against hordes. Simply stay next to the dispenser and shoot, blocking anything that survives long enough to try and get past you. Heavy is the easiest class to play and the one beginners should focus on, so let your less experienced player run him. You can stack him, if needed, but I would not recommend if the map is too open or with opposing robot spawns. He is also the cheapest class, and thus the most customizable, being able to adapt him to any kind of team you are in. And his sheer damage means he will always be a good choice regardless. For loadout, stock, sandwich, and either the Gru or the Fists of Steel, doesn't really matter. You likely know that the Brass Beast is the best minigun for MvM, but modern map design means the place where you will stay will likely be open with different gates to defend against, so mobility is very needed when going in blind, so I only recommend the Brass Beast after you've done a few tours in said map. For the sandwich, you likely won't be healing yourself too much, if ever, so just throw it to the ground when you have a lull in the action. For upgrades, they depend entirely on your team. Heavy can technically work fine with no upgrades. As a baseline, focus on upgrading firing speed, but choose on your team's weaknesses. Start with health on kill if you lack a medic, buy ammo capacity only if your NG sucks or you have none, buy resistances only if your team isn't helping diverge the aggro. Or their wave is throwing too much at you at once, and by deflect projectiles if there are too many soldiers and or demos on a wave, get movement speed and projectile penetration later on in the mission if you have money to spare. Regardless where you start upgrading, you will eventually get most of these things even on tours with low credit pools. For tips, try to stay right where the enemies drop. You will likely need to reposition a lot whenever the main spawn area changes, but always meet the bots head on. Trying to shoot from afar or escape them will usually result in you underperforming. Unless of course you are mostly by yourself, then you should relocate obviously. When updating firing speed, know that, at the time this video is made, the second tick is bugged, has always been, so it doesn't work. Mind you, the third and fourth tick do, just that one that doesn't. As such, only buy it if you have the money to buy at least the third tick right away as well. Otherwise it will be 400 credits that could have gone to something else more useful. For deflect projectile, it will disable any rocket or pipe that is hit by one of your bullets, so you need to aim to maximize the chances of hitting those. For demos, just aim slightly above their heads, and go down to the head as they get closer. For soldiers, aim at their crotch, and then go up to their chest as they get close. That will maximize your chances of deflecting their hits. Soldier is here for one word: adaptability. He is worse than heavy for single target damage, and takes quite a bunch of money to upgrade to a reliable damage dealer. Still, he makes up for it in his movement and AoE capabilities, making him a great second attacker that can quickly reposition whenever a horde shows up in a different place. His support capabilities also help make up for his poor damage output early on in waves, making him a dynamic and reliable attacker that can deal with support bots and secondary hordes that drop while the rest of the team is busy dealing with a bigger threat. For loadout, Soldier has quite a diverse spread here. Stock, either of the three banners, and the disciplinary action or the escape plan. Melee is mostly to your taste. Now Beggars is the best and cheapest primary, but it demands you fight closer to the enemies, meaning you take more aggro and your team fails to both give you more support and get support from the banners. So for starting on these tours, Stock is more reliable since you can shoot from near the team. Banners vary on situation. Conch is always good of course, and the must use for Beggars, but Buff Banner is good on waves with tanks or too many hordes of small bots, and Battalions is good for early waves with too much crit spam, or if your team just can't stay alive long enough to be healed. For upgrades, one tick of Rocket Specialist, so you get to negate damage fall off, then reload speed, if you got stock, rocket firing speed, and then finally damage. You don't need ammo capacity if your NG is good and the map has enough ammo packs, and clip size is late priority. If you got Beggars, firing speed and clip size are basically useless, so just buy ammo capacity and damage instead. Buy health on kill whenever you can, unless you are running Conch. Usually, resistances aren't a priority unless you are running Beggars or overextending in general. If the team is being pushed back a lot, you might need to buy them before damage. For tips, prioritize tanks. With enough money, Soldier can match, even surpass Pyro when it comes to tank damage. If it is too early a wave though, you might wanna switch to Pyro though. Rocket Specialist can stun robots on a direct hit, so you can serve as a last-minute block for Super Scouts if they ever get past the team. Just shoot where they will be, and you can pin them down long enough for someone else to help. Similarly, to maximize damage, prioritize high ground to make it easier to hit enemies, and when dealing with hordes, shoot where the bomb is, even when it's on the ground. Since robots will want to grab it, you can ensure you will get at least some splash damage in. You can hold the button after using a banner charge to prevent it from going off, so if you blow it too early, you can delay the activation. Some pyro enemies can reflect your rockets, which can get you or a teammate killed. You can tell by their eyes, where blue ones will rarely do it, while yellow ones will do it often. If you don't have time to look at their eyes, look at the flamethrower. If they are constantly spewing flames, they rarely will airblast. If they are not shooting them constantly, then they likely will. In the situation where you need to shoot them from the back or the side. That way, you reduce the chances of them airblasting you, and if they do, you will likely be away from your team so they won't get shafted. Medic, as you can imagine, he is here for safety. A constant stream of healing is good, but add Uber to it and, most importantly, the shield upgrade, and Medic can single-handedly erase more than half the damage the entire robot side does during a tour. For more advanced teams, Medic tends to be a bit of a redundancy, since getting better at MvM means learning how to reduce the damage you take and healing said damage off. so an entire class there just for healing is useless, and you get more reliable damage by doubling down on a DPS class than using a crits Uber, but given it's a new map with not a set meta or prior knowledge, he is indispensable. For loadout, the Overdose, the Quick Fix, and the Ubersaur. The Ubersaur is self-explanatory. The Overdose gives you speed and the Mad Milk Syringes upgrade, while the crossbow is good at early waves, but becomes less relevant the more you upgrade your healing. The Medigun though, many will say the Kritzkrieg is the best, because it is, but it offers no overall support, and requires your team to be alive to use it, which given we know nothing about this upcoming tour, and how skilled your team will be, might never happen when you want, you also likely won't be serving as a Demoman exclusive crit battery either. The Quick Fix just heals faster, builds Uber almost just as fast, and builds shields like no other Medigun, so it can keep everyone alive more. Though don't get me wrong, if your team is shown to be able to handle themselves, then you may swap to the crits if you want. Start with maxing out your shield as early as possible, then go for healing mastery, which lets you revive players faster on top of the sped up heals. Buy resistances when needed, then Ubercharge duration to make more use of it. Uber generation is not really useful when you can Ubersaur safe targets. Milk syringes are situational but extremely good in those situations, and Canteen Specialist is more of a late game purchase, but you may want to buy it earlier if the team is getting trashed and you need more survivability. For tips, remember that your shield also deals damage, 100 DPS to be exact, so you can help thin down hordes, but also remember that fire and melee are not blocked by it. Also, any attack launched from behind the shield will connect to you, so getting too close so the robots clip through it will get you killed. Look down when using it to reduce the gap between you and the shield so you'll get hit less often. When reviving teammates, you get a small healing boost right away, so mashing the button will revive teammates faster. This is more noticeable the higher your healing mastery is. When using a canteen with the specialist upgrade, and sharing the effect with your healing target, it works as if the target itself has used a canteen, meaning you don't need to keep healing them. If you used a stock Uber canteen, you can use the chance to hit an enemy with your melee to speed up your Uber. Similarly, if you used a crit canteen, you can whip out your Overdose to help deal some damage. Finally, the upgrade itself also gives you a 10% discount when buying canteens, however it only applies when you exit the station, which is when you truly buy it, so if you get a tick of it and then immediately buy a canteen, you will buy it for full price, so buy the upgrade, leave and come back, and then you can buy it. If you want to maximize your canteen money, refunding upgrades doesn't refund canteens, so you can max out on specialist, leave, buy canteen, then refund and apply just one tick for the wave. Then, finally, Sniper. If you only played 2 cities, you likely don't even know what he does, but he is here for one reason. Consistency. See, one of the main roles in MvM is that of a burst AoE, or a medic killer. As a term you likely heard about, there are only 3 classes in the game that can reliably kill medics right from the get-go. You might expect Pyro or Demo to be the best choices here, and here they are, when the mission follows the 2 cities model of one singular big threat followed by another big threat with a good amount of time between them. If you need to deal with smaller threats in quick succession, or with them dropping simultaneously on opposite sides, both of them fail to be useful, while Sniper remains as the most reliable and consistent of the 3. As long as you have ammo and a clear sight to the robot's head, you can do your job, killing medics in one shot, and thinning down hordes all around. For loadout, Hitman's Heatmaker, Cozy Camper, and Stock. The Heatmaker has the focus meter, letting you shoot without having to unscope, which can not only pump your DPS hard, but also help you hit shots more reliably if you are not that good of a sniper. Cozy Camper prevents flinching when fully charged and gives you a health regen, which is a must-have given snipers' elevated aggro level. You can use the Jar 8, but you will usually be far away from the battle to the point where throwing it is not that useful. If you are having to play close though, it can be a good choice. With the slow upgrade it can have to slow down bots. Stock is here to kill spies, as it is the one that does it faster than any other with no setup, but you can avoid doing it by jumping on an elevated ledge. There is the Carbine and Bushwhacker combo, which you use to destroy tanks. You can equip them on a tank wave, but you should still prioritize shooting robots. For upgrades, 1 tick of explode on headshot, then reload speed and damage. You can get more ticks of explode on ignite if the area is too open, but it is not a necessity. After that, get movement speed and jump height, to both avoid incoming damage and be able to avoid spies by climbing up to high places. Ammo capacity is needed, but only if you don't have an ammo pack right around you. Melee swing speed is only good if you have to help with tank busting. For tips, you don't need to be a god sniper to run the class, as long as you can hit half your headshots, that is all you need. For more security though, aim for giants and bomb carriers, since they are usually slower. Similarly, you don't need the focus meter of the heatmaker to be full to use it, you can use it anytime, and it gains meter by having you kill or get an assist on an enemy, with any weapon, so spies can be a good way to farm. For positioning, you want a place far where you can shoot freely while still having a way to dodge incoming fire, but again, by nature of modern mapmaking, is likely you won't get too many solid places to snipe safely from. If you need to snipe near the team, save it for when it is really necessary, otherwise you risk getting killed before a big threat gets down. And this is it, this is the team composition I feel works the best when dealing with any new tour going in blind. Of course once the tour does drop naturally a meta will build around it, and it likely won't look like the comp I gave you, but this is the most solid you can get with zero knowledge of what is to come. Can you play something else? Yeah, you will likely have to swap to something like a pyro for tank busting, but I wouldn't recommend straying too far from it. Chances are that, with how most community map makers do it, unless Valve heavily edits the waves, the traditional win buttons of man up, like gas pyro or a crit boosted SR demo, likely won't be as effective. Spy likely will, but you watching this and anyone else playing it on day one, probably just suck ass as spy, so don't even bother it unless the team is memeing. But that's that, all I said here is under the guise that you and your team want to play seriously. If you end up on a team that just wants to goof around without being serious, then play whatever you want. I expect the early days of this to be just like bootcamp, so don't go in fully expecting a competent team willing to listen and do teamwork. But if you do find them, now you know what to play. Good luck out there, remember to have fun, and God bless.